Our next guest sees this crackdown on online gambling as, quote, nothing less than a declaration of war against poker and the people who play it. We're joined now by John Pappas. He's executive director of the Poker's Players Alliance. And John, this impacts 10 million Americans who play poker online, and obviously the billions of dollars associated with the industry. What's being alleged is it doesn't necessarily have to do with whether poker's gambling or not. It has to do with this question of money laundering. What is your viewpoint here?
Well, I'm not a legal expert, nor am I a lawyer, so it would probably be remiss for me to really focus on those points. The reality is we don't believe poker to be gambling, therefore the activities surrounding it shouldn't be viewed as covering up some sort of illegal gambling activity. Nevertheless, the victims here are not the sites that are being targeted, but the millions of players who play online, whether as a hobby, avocation, and in many cases, a profession. Their money is being frozen, and they're not having access to it, and it's the government standing in the way.
But what's at issue is not whether they were, actions used to cover up the fact that people were gambling, but rather the actions themselves that come into question. Specifically, one of the online poker company's CEOs was accused by the federal government of having to develop prepaid debit cards or phone cards loaded with funds from a consumer's credit card without using a gambling transaction code, specifically trying not to be classified as a gambling organization here. Is that the practice of a legitimate business?
Again, I can't really comment on the practices or the charges made by the government because I don't know the facts. I don't think anybody does, and I think that's what's going to be uncovered during the hearings and trial and case that's going to go on probably for a long time. It's interesting that the government is committing so many resources to going after poker sites and essentially millions of Americans who play poker, yet the financial institutions and those involved in the financial institutions that have led to the economic meltdown and defrauded the Americans out of trillions of dollars haven't been indicted or convicted or anything like that. It seems like a misplaced priority, if you ask me.
That, again, is outside your purview. But talk to me about specifically this industry and what's happening to the money that's locked up. Some of these customers, not the CEOs, have had their accounts frozen. Should the poker companies be reimbursing them?
Well, the poker companies, I think, would like to reimburse their players. It's the government that's standing in the way of that process happening.
I think that specifically has to do with the accounts, though, right? I'm talking about not going and reopening those accounts, but paying out the amount that the customer has already bet and is owed.
Right, exactly, and there needs to be a process in which the online operator can send money back to the players, and from what I understand, that process is not opened up at this point, and that's something that the players want. We're hearing from literally thousands of poker players who've contacted us directly, have emailed us, have sent phone calls, or posting on our Facebook page, are saying, hey, this is ridiculous. We want access to our money. We want to be able to play online. Why is the government doing this?
All right. Well, John, it'll be interesting to see how this progresses and this case that's being made. Appreciate your perspective.